In this video, we're going to be replacing the driver's side shock on this Ford F-150. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove our front tire. Our vehicle has locks on every lug stud, so we're just going to remove those with the lock key. And we can now remove our front tire. So now on the bottom of our shock, we have a bolt going through. It's going to be an 18 millimeter on one side and a 17 millimeter on the other side. And for right now, we're going to leave that bolt going all the way through, just to hold that shock in place for us. So now on the top of our shock, we have two nuts. We have one on top, one on the bottom. To spin off our top one, we're going to have to lock down our bottom one. We're going to use a 15 millimeter wrench on the bottom. And 9/16 socket on the top. So now what we have here is a long, thin pair of locking pliers, locking the center of our shock. On top we have a 15 millimeter. So we're going to loosen the last nut on top. We can take out our locking pliers here. And down the bottom where we left that through bolt in, we can knock that bolt out. There we go, prying the shock upwards from the bottom. And we can remove our shock. And don't forget on the top to remove your old bushing and washer. All right, so we're going to put our shock back in place. Make sure to have your washer and your rubber isolator on the right side. You'll have also another set for the top. Now we need to get the bolt holes to line up down the bottom. Once you have your bolt holes lined up, we're going to put our bottom bolt through and our nut on the inside. Once we get our top in place, then we'll torque everything down together. So with the top rod still lined up, we're going to take our top bushing here and our top washer, set them over top of the rod. Now you can see that our suspension lowered a little bit. At this point you may have to jack up or raise the suspension to push the shock back up into place so you have enough room. So we've raised our vehicle so that we can put some load on our suspension and bring it back up so we can put our top nut onto our shock. Now if you're on the ground, this is where you could use a floor jack. For us, it's a little bit of a different setup since we're on a lift. We'll put our nut on. What we're going to do is lower down our pole jack. We'll lower our vehicle and we'll tighten everything down. All right, bottom of our shock mount here, we'll snug this bolt up. You can see the top has a notch here where you would use an actual bit to stop the center pole from spinning. So what we're going to do is actually just try and get as much of that slack out of that bolt as possible before the center starts spinning. We're going to check that with our hand here. When we start to feel that center spinning, we know we'll have to stop. So on the top, we're going to torque this top bolt down to 25 foot-pounds. We're going to try and do that without holding the center See if we can get it to torque. So on the bottom bolt here, we're going to torque this down to 60 foot-pounds. All right, so we've gone ahead and snugged up our lug nuts in a crisscross pattern. When we drop our vehicle down to the ground, we'll torque these down. So now we're going to torque down our lug nuts. We're going to torque them down to 100 foot-pounds. We're going to do it in a crisscross pattern. Now this vehicle has locks on every lug, so looks a little different than normal. And that's it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.